Good morning. It is so good that we are all able to gather together here today. Amen? Amen. So I haven't talked about it too much publicly. This Christmas, we had an addition come to our family. Now, I know we're not supposed to, in public places, it becomes very uncomfortable to make confessions, and people can kind of get squeamish about that. But having said that, I need to talk this through a little bit with you today. To be honest, this addition to our family, I really don't like it. Things are not necessarily going well. Things almost came to a head yesterday morning, and thankfully we had some help to get through it. I have to confess, I can't stand our new toaster. Now, I had received training in the new toaster, but I forgot. There are lights, and there are buttons, and there are levers. Yesterday morning, I wanted to switch things up a little bit. I moved from toast, or I was trying at least, to move from toast to a bagel. And after a failed attempt, of course, I called down Gerl, and Gerl, can you help me with this? And calmly, she walks up to the toaster, bing, 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 boom. And there we were, with a reasonably okay tasting and toasted bagel. So frustrated, curious, I said, how did you know how to do that? And she said, well, it says bagel right under the button. Now I'm frustrated. Like I said, I've already learned to not like this toaster. I'm frustrated and I'm a little bit embarrassed. So with all of that feeding me, I quickly responded, well, no, it doesn't. That's not very smart. But she kindly but yet confidently said, yes, it does. See, what happened here is my colorblindness got me again. The bright red, I'm told, toaster had bagel written in black underneath the button. But to my eyes, there was nothing there. This colorblindness that I have throughout the years since I was little, has provided a lot of opportunities to be teased and to be made fun of or worse, right? It's provided a lot of opportunities. But in this case, I was approached with kindness. And this happens often. People approach difficult or embarrassing or just abnormal situations often. They go that extra mile and they approach it with kindness. All you need to do in my case is look at our Rummy Cube tiles, that little game with the white tiles. I can't tell some of the colors from one another, so little dots have been put on to help me distinguish the colors. Look at our Uno deck, and the name of it's a B, so I'm assuming blue is one of the colors, but that's been written on all of our cards. I have a coworker who, on her own, thought, it's going to be easier for Bill to work if I make the font in my emails a little bit bigger. So she does that. I didn't ask for it, but she knew this could be easier. Again, life presents us with all kinds of opportunities where we can attempt to claim some level of superiority. Or we can, out of instinct or whatever, act cruelly. And this does happen, but more often than not, it doesn't. Now, these examples that I gave you are simple, right? They're small things in the grand scheme of life. And I think that really applies well to what we are talking about and what we are hearing about in our readings today. In our first reading, we hear, you have heard it said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That comes from the Code of Hammurabi, which was written approximately 2,200 years before Christ. And while it may sound cruel to us today, this code was actually some sort of insurance for people to be treated fairly. What it really talks about is not taking revenge, not being so angry that not only do we get what happened to us in return, but we cause something more to happen. So truly, it was some version of mercy. Now, they didn't have the luxury of senates and houses of representatives. They didn't have the luxury of courts and lawyers like we do today. So they had to use something a little bit more simple. And this code went on clearly for thousands of years, and in some ways I think we still sometimes think about it that way today. But truly, even in the Torah, the Old Testament, we start to hear about, well, this code might make some sense, but truly we ought to be treating others as we would want to be treated. In the second reading, we hear the Corinthians receiving their letter, and in Corinth, see, there's temples to all different gods. And these temples represented places where you would go to become closer to God. So the writer is calling on the people of Corinth to make themselves a temple. Make themselves holy, make themselves a place where one can go to become closer to God, or use your body to become closer to God through your actions, through your words, through your living. And in the gospel today, Jesus is continuing with that Sermon on the Mount. We've already heard Jesus talking about the last few weeks, the commandments, the 10 Commandments, and the Mosaic Law, and the Beatitudes. And today it kind of gets boiled down to some of the more mundane, everyday kinds of experiences. We hear about if you get slapped, turn the other cheek. See, being slapped in the face in Jesus' time was an ultimate embarrassment. We hear Jesus say, if they ask for your tunic, give them your cloak as well. Again, while some may have had more, most had a tunic and a cloak, and that was it. So Jesus is suggesting that if someone asks for your cloak, or rather your tunic, give them your cloak, that's going to leave them with nothing. Again, that's pretty embarrassing. And walk the extra mile. Rather, carry the goods or carry the pack an extra mile. Where that comes from is from the Roman soldiers. So many Jews joined the Roman army. And it was law that if they said, I need you to carry my gear for a mile, Jesus is saying, carry it for 2. Now, see, again, that situation very embarrassing because these are fellow Jews, equal in social standing, but yet they're being made to do this labor. So again, Jesus ultimately is saying, get over yourselves, folks. Start thinking about heavenly things. Start turning your thoughts to heaven as opposed to these earthly things. Jesus didn't come to abolish the law. We've heard this many times probably. Jesus didn't come to abolish the law. He came to fulfill it. He came to help us understand really how we are supposed to live. Really how we are supposed to interpret those laws that have come to us. It's no fluke. It's no accident that these readings come to us just before Lent. I think they give us an excellent opportunity, a springboard today, a springboard for us to consider what our plan is for Lent. Consider how we are going to live out this Lent in an attempt to become closer to God. We are called to build a plan that helps us love our neighbor as we love ourselves. We are called to make ourselves that temple. We are called to understand and make a plan to use ourselves, our bodies. Perhaps we'll treat it like a temple, yes, maybe a little less chocolate, maybe a few less beers, but maybe also to treat our body as a temple as we drop to our knees in prayer, as we find loving and kind and inclusive words, as we perform loving actions. And we are also called, as Jesus talks about in the gospel today, we are called to find ways to lift others up instead of ourselves. So as we move into Lent, when you come back to church Wednesday or Sunday and every Sunday after that during Lent, you will notice that we have moved from the greens to purple. We have changed our color. And while that can mean many things, one of the things I'm going to invite you to think about this year, for those of you who are colorblind and can recognize, or not colorblind and can recognize that, when you see that purple as you come to Mass, think about that plan that you've created. How am I doing? How am I doing with this plan? And this plan, by the way, does not have to be grand. It does not have to be huge or earth-shattering, right? Headline-making. No. I would argue that something as simple as a bagel is an opportunity for love and grace to enter your life and all those around you.